welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Dan Oliverio. I'm an author, public speaker, and chubby chaser, and we are all COVID boys today.
Yes.
We are our post BiggerVegas.
Welcome to our official COVID episode.
We had an amazing time at BiggerVegas, and we all got COVID.
Then we all get COVID. Basically, everybody did.
Yeah. But we've all tested negative, and but you can probably hear in my voice at least.
Negative does not mean symptom free.
Yeah.
So we've actually spent a large portion of the morning preparing to choreograph our coughing so that it can be edited out as best as possible.
It's balletic.
Listen to this, everybody. I just edited out 10 coughs. See how great that was?
Genius.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub. I am back here in West Hollywood on the couch in my pajamas. And I also had COVID. I tested negative. I lost my sense of smell briefly, but it's back, baby.
It's back and kicking.
He really
smell
smells
to
now.
pay.
He really smells now.
My name is Michael. I am a chaser. And today I am... Did anyone else feel like trash when they got COVID? Like, I'm just a trash... Like, I felt dirty.
I felt like it was a moral failing on my part.
That's me right now.
Really?
Yes, I got guilt. I got COVID guilt. So today I am a COVID guilty boy. I can't explain it.
I am largely guilt-free, so no.
I didn't have that, but I do now when I see pictures of people at like events. I'm like, disgusting, filth, disgusting. Why would you do that?
Unclean.
How could you?
I have to admit, through this entire week, all I can think is the Futurama quote of that woman who just gets turned on by Bender being the dirty boy. Dirty boy, dirty boy.
Yeah, that's us.
Hi, my name is Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in Hollywood, and today I am a snotty boy. I'm just going to stick with the theme.
Yes. But here we are. I feel pretty good. I mean, it's just like those lingering cough symptoms and brain fog. I didn't get it at all during the main thrust of things, but then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, ugh.
I am very grateful for the vaccine. I am very grateful that we were all boosted.
And able,
the experience of COVID for all of us has been much less than some of the experiences I've heard about from people who were not vaccinated.
I have some ASMR going on here.
Hold on, everybody sip. Everybody sip.
Okay, ASMR time.
And go.
Oh, yeah, baby.
That is our hot tea. All of us have lovely Dan provided tea this morning.
Oh, boy.
Because my tea is the hottest.
Hot, steamy, wet tea.
Yes, so enough COVID talk. We're not here to talk about COVID. We're here to talk about fat things. The fun fat things.
Fattest.
The fattest.
So as we've mentioned, we've just gotten back from BiggerVegas, and we have more observations to share with all of you. But first, what's going on in the world, Trevor?
A whole lot.
News on the fat march.
We are starting off with an article from Ebony about Jeff Jenkins and his, I think a lot of our listeners probably follow him on Instagram. He's the Chubby Diaries. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of kind of travel blogging stuff. And he has a new show coming out on NatGeo and Disney Plus.
Oh.
So this is a new travel show. It's him going all around the world as a big fat gay black man. Mm-hmm.
He's not gay.
I'm sorry, he's not gay.
I was just so used to saying big fat gay and secret.
It sounded hopeful when you said it.
Well, and I wouldn't mind. No, he's very handsome. And so he's going to parts of the world and
all over the place.
And New Zealand.
I feel like that's an essential thing for when I travel as a fat person internationally. The way people react to me is different than they do to a normal person.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I hate saying that word. I didn't mean it normal person, but
straight size.
Normie. Yeah.
Basic
size. Yeah, basic size. I like that. But this was not international travel. This was here in LA, but I spent a period of time where I was working on a set with a huge number of Asian people, not Asian Americans, Asian immigrants, many of which who didn't speak English. And for 2 weeks, every day, at least one person would walk up to me, put his hand on my stomach and start rubbing and say, "So big."
It's
very big.
Like this.
But it wasn't like an American doing it, like disgust. It was just like, wow.
Sure, but like the lack of like respect for personal space. Like that seems,
Which is, you would, well, at least in Europe, they have the good taste to simply stare at you.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Coming off Bigger-Vegas.
well, true.
That's a little
I
different.
think there was a
We'll
lot
get to that later.
There's a lot of belly
But
rubbing.
watching someone of a larger size travel might not be just, helpful for bigger people, but a very direct way for normies to see how it is for us to be traveled.
Well, and the interview was in Ebony magazine. And so he also makes the point that this isn't just about fat representation. It's also about black representation because you see so few black men traveling the world. That's not a thing yet.
Yeah.
In the media.
So his show is I think they just wrapped production. They're currently editing. It's supposed to air in 2023. And so, keep an eye on it. It's currently untitled. I think they're still coming up with all of the branding and that stuff. But
I mean, if they should do the Chubby Diaries.
the Chubby Diaries, I mean, the branding is already made. Like, and his audience will recognize it instantly.
Well, it doesn't say travel in that brand, but
fair.
I mean, the Chubby Diaries :
travel.
I don't know.
on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of ways to do it. But
I mean, it's put like it's the Chubby. The logo is the Chubby Diaries, and then there's a plane that comes around the back and goes.
like around the globe, yeah.
Is it a very chubby plane? I hope it's a chubby plane.
isn't that the NatGeo logo anyway? Like the
No,
globe?
I think that's the Amazon logo.
He does mention our fan favorite or podcast favorite Southwest Airlines for their customer of size policy, which the airline itself. They're hit or miss. You kind of have to get lucky, but their customer of size policy is impossible to beat.
Impossible.
You get a free extra seat.
They got my business again.
Yeah.
I was boycotting them for years, but
Yeah.
Promo code Big Fat Gay.
Big fat. Yeah. We have to get that sponsorship deal. When's that going to happen?
I don't know. I'm thinking Big Fig. Big Fig, if
is
you're listening.
Their ads. I
freaking bought their mattress. I will attest to the joy and satisfaction. Keep in mind, I haven't even gotten an endorsement deal yet. I love my mattress.
All right, everyone, listeners out there, anyone who has connections into the world of advertising or specifically Big Fig mattress, hook us up because we would preach them from the rooftops.
Hell, Winston Box. I keep getting your ads, and I want some new clothes. So send me some swag.
But yeah, so
hold on. I think Don just gave us a perfect segue for our next topic.
He's like that.
Don is looking for, some swag, some clothes. And there was a lovely feature of Aidy Bryant talking about finding her style through dressing up as other people.
In Vogue.
I was just going to say, can we just acknowledge for a minute that Aidy Bryant is in Vogue talking about her evolving sense of style. And the point of view of the headline, at least, and to most extent the article, is that, as a fat person, when she started the show, it was basically about, she brought in her own wardrobe because she just started, and it was just, whatever she could wear.
Yeah.
And then she started.
And a lot of times what she sort of tailored for herself.
Well, a little bit, but then that's when the show started. And there's this wonderful thing about how they gave her this amazing couture outfit because they took 2 size 12s, sewed them together and created panels. And then she talks about how, people would go be like, oh my God, where can I get that dress? And she says, well, I'm sorry, you can't.
It's
Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein together. Yeah.
It's amazing that we can actually get good clothes for big people when someone actually puts some thought into them.
Well, and she acknowledges that the wardrobe department never said boo about having to do more work for her than someone else.
Yeah. And I would say, a friend of mine works in wardrobe for a lot of commercials and movies and shows. And I think there's a lot of very sort of standard kind of expected practices with like straight size people where I think it might get a little boring. And so I think there's a novelty to somebody working in wardrobe as far as like the challenge of dressing somebody where you have to come up with creative solutions.
Yeah, because most designers in media are, in some way, in some capacity, problem solvers.
Yeah.
Whether you're a director, a costume designer, even a script supervisor.
Keep in mind, I'm talking going back like 20 or 15 years, but when I was acting, I think every role I did on television, I had to costume myself.
Because they didn't have
anything. Anything. Like,
Well,
I appeared on 24, right? It's season 3. You keep blinking, you'll miss me. But like I'm on goddamn 24. And I to the point where I didn't get, my line got cut, but I do get killed.
Nice.
But I still had to costume myself for 24. Like
Jesus.
it's insane. You know, so it's nice to hear that at least we've come that far where they will provide her with clothing and she's not expected to dive into her own closet to figure out.
Well,
what her
and this, I
character's
think, is the second or third interview we've talked about, we've referenced, where the subject of the interview has referenced the fact that it's so much better now.
Oh, yeah.
It's not solved by any means, but it's so much better now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also cool to see like not just her style evolving, but also the way, because she's a writer and an actress on the show, a performer, and so she got to a lot of times write her own roles. But what would happen, she would say, is like the first few years on the show, the roles that were being written for her were very sort of expected, kind of like either cute or motherly, sort of like
non-sexual,
prim and proper, non-sexual. And then like she got to kind of start writing her own narrative and making more sexual or liberated characters like Aidy Bizzo and Aidy B, which the Aidy B parody did air. The Aidy Bizzo one did not, but it's on YouTube.
It's so good.
You must go watch it. It's so Don. All right, Don, you haven't seen it. Well, at the end of this episode, we're all gonna watch it together. It's very funny. She's awesome, but it's about her finding her own liberation. She's playing herself in those sketches, but she wrote them too. And so as the other writers kind of saw her writing about herself that way, it gave them freedom to then also write parts like that for her. And it all ties together with the clothes as well. And you get to see that evolution.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see if you're a straight size writer and you're writing for Aidy Bryant, you don't want to write a sexual role and imply that, oh, that's the joke.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's it's really great that she's writing that. She's in control of it. She can decide what she wants. I wonder too, so often because we think that the opposite of sex is fat, I wonder if she were a different sort of person, if she would be writing these very sexual roles for herself, if it weren't for the fact that fat oppression sort of condemns fat people to asexuality or no sexuality.
Mm-hmm. And therefore
the impetus is to push against that because it might in some ways be the most oppressive in terms of media. I mean, there's other things you can encounter out in the world that are pretty nasty. But like if you're a fat performer, you're sort of given these mom roles or the dumb role or the glutton role. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that was her way of pushing back at the sharpest barb.
Mm-hmm.
I could certainly see that. And she talks about too, like now after having done Shrill and a lot of the work she's done on SNL, like being a bit of a fat liberation icon and like having people look up to her and if she feels any pressure about that. And she says she kind of does, and not in a bad way, but she is conscious of, for instance, taking roles or not taking roles, depending on how they're written. She gives the example of, say there's a girl or a young woman who, doesn't date and that's her life and she gets offered the role to audition for it. And she's like, I won't take that role because when I take that role, it's the fat girl who cannot date.
See, if Tina Fey takes that role, it's just sort of the nerd girl not getting a date and she has the transformation. But if the fat girl takes that role, it's a comment about fat people.
Mm-hmm. I just really admire her for being aware of that, but also not letting it totally drive her way of interacting with her audience and her own content.
I love that she also acknowledged in the sort of like, people look up to you. Is that hard for you? And she says, yes, but because she also says that she remembers when she was growing up looking at people like Queen Latifah and who's the other example?
Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell as like, that's where she could be in media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Aidy, we're always happy to see her. She's in Vogue. They have a lot of the pictures from her in her various SNL garbs. She does also say which of her outfits on SNL are her favorites. And there's a variety in there. There's some of them that have that very sort of high fashion vibe that the trend
forecaster.
Yeah, the trend forecaster.
I love that outfit. And specifically because she talks about the little hat that's part of it. And
she calls it the stupid little hat.
Yes. Well, because it's like such a perfect take on like super high fashion, but it's like it looks stupid but also good at the same time.
Yeah.
There is a picture of it in this article as well.
Yeah, it's conspicuously fashionable.
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Claus was the other one, which I thought was interesting. And it's because of because it was like vintage lace.
I didn't realize how much they put into the costumes on SNL, given that they have a week to put together.
Well, but they're also, the costume has to be right because so often they're impersonating or satirizing, and so it has to be recognizable, like in a second.
There's a picture of her as Elton John, which I hadn't seen the sketch before, but as soon as I scrolled to the picture, I was like, oh, that's Elton John, even though it's Aidy Bryant, but because of the costume.
It's the haircut and the jacket.
And the glasses, yeah.
It's, she says in the article, actually, that something she wore a lot of doing SNL was suits, and that she never liked suits, but now, like, it's a staple in her wardrobe.
All right, well, I think it's time. Hold on. So when we did the live episode, this was extremely loud.
It's Scooty flying.
Wow.
It's here. Once again, soaring into the atmosphere. And hopefully not blasting anybody's eardrums like it did in the live episode. It's funny, you know, we hear this show when we do it through our headphones, but when you do it live with a bunch of speakers in a giant room,
Holy crap!
it's a very different experience.
I'm surprised we didn't knock out a window.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm sorry. That was just my experience of going to any movie. It's so damn loud.
Poor Dan and his sensitive ears.
It's loud.
All right, so what do we got for Fat
now
Watch
that your ears have recovered from the THX blast of Fat Watch,
The audience is now.
we have an interview with BoarLord, who we've talked about them on the podcast before. They wrote the article we featured about fat video game characters way back when.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Cool.
And this was an interview with Gay Men's Sexual Health Alliance, which is a Canadian organization. And they invited BoarLord to talk about their sex work and kind of that as part of their identity, the stigma around that, the self-love around that. And it's a really great little short bite-size interview.
On Instagram.
Yes, on Instagram.
It's really well produced. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it covers a lot. And I just really loved it, especially because when they talk about just fat pleasure and self-love and joy. And I'm just curious what everyone else.
And the reality, I mean, the thing that was interesting for me was that they talked about their experience going from essentially being a blogger and a writer, moving into sex work and transitioning that to their career essentially. And I was really curious about like doing that and like how that affects their life. And like, they talk about it, like, and you get some of those details. It's like, yes, I did lose some friends over this. But also like Trevor was saying, like the ability to kind of give people joy. And it's a very enlightened perspective. And they talk about, you know, letting go of the idea of masculinity is also incredibly liberating. And it just felt very, I don't know. It just felt very liberating. It felt like what it's meant to represent, which is, you know, fat liberation.
Yeah. And I mean, you can definitely see why they have a following. It's so charismatic, so intimate, curvaceous, and just lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's interesting. So when they talk about losing people in their life because of this career change.
Because they do sex work.
And I think I have conversations with people a lot about this with kind of either chasers or chubs being afraid of losing people in their life by embracing kind of either coming out as fat or coming out as a chaser.
Yeah.
And my thing is always like, I mean, if they're gonna like,
why are they in your life in the first place?
Like it's
That's a good
really
point,
like if they're going to cut you out of your life because of who you are, because part of your identity that's important to you, maybe you don't need them in your lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very true sentiment. And it's also, you know, that degree of change is hard to just like summon upon yourself. Like it's to make a statement and to, you know, churn up the waters of, you know, God, COVID brain. Anyway, to make
waters.
that kind of, the waters, to make that kind of a statement is very difficult. But I think the point is that with that degree of difficulty, it is also that much more liberating.
I would also add that in my work with people, what I find is that the people who are afraid, like, but you know, what if everybody shuns me? What if I'll be abandoned? That usually isn't really coming from outside. That is actually one's own self-judgment that one is, I should say, giving energy to in the outside world. Yeah. So that it's something that you actually believe is already true about yourself. It's not that you're afraid that other people are going to judge you. It's that you already judge yourself and you're going to find evidence for that out in the world. And yeah, you will.
That's actually a pretty decent segue into our main topic, at least for me, which is kind of looking back on the experience of BiggerVegas now that we're a couple weeks removed. A lot of things have happened. If you guys have heard the live episode, you'll hear a lot of our experiences, both of the event up to that point and what we wanted to do. And a lot of it is those very typical aspects of like dealing with public perception and dealing with your own insecurities
and body image
and all that good stuff. And I think I certainly have some wrap up thoughts. I can go first if you guys want.
Yeah.
Go, Michael.
I mean, so previously on the Big Fat Gay podcast, Michael had not gone to the pool.
That's right. And there was a lot of anxiety around it, and
Which was a really useful discussion point in that it opens it up for all the chasers in the room there. And really hammering it home that this is not a unique situation just to chubby guys or just to Michael.
Which was a very, I don't want to say cool experience, but just very novel experience. Like there aren't a whole lot of opportunities in life to stand up in front of people and say, this is the thing that makes me feel, vulnerable, and then to have a bunch of people kind of echo back that sort of relatability or at least sympathy, empathy. It was interesting. It also made me feel very watched.
Of course.
Which, that's kind of part and parcel for doing something like this. But I realized that I hadn't fully grokked what the issue was for me. Like I was explaining it as, being very uncomfortable, like taking my shirt off and going in the pool and kind of embracing that world. And not wanting to like go into the makeout pool, which I realized later, by the way, I realized way too late in the event that there was a separate pool that was the quiet pool that you could go in, and it's a lap pool. It didn't have stairs. It just had the step ladder, which was a little difficult for Michael, but we made it work. But I realized that specifically the issue I was coming across was not quite. So Don, you had described like going to the pool as a liberating experience because you finally got to quiet the voices in your head and feel like the eyes weren't actually on you, making you feel self-conscious. And that is similar, but not actually what I was dealing with. And I didn't realize it at the time. And in editing the episode, I actually kind of crystallized for myself that it was very specifically not wanting to go into the pool and have an experience of being objectified. That very specifically was what I was avoiding or wanting to avoid, which was made very easy to do by going in with a group of friends and just having people around me that I could talk to and engage with. And I knew that that would be a safe space in and of itself, rather than going in by myself and basically inviting what may come and then having to kind of hope that that didn't go that direction, because that's ultimately not why I was at the event.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that that was the specific, that was the extra step that I kind of walked up to it during the live episode, and I didn't quite realize what I was trying to say. But we did go to the pool. We did it. And
the big pool.
Yeah, to the big pool.
The big sexy
to the
pool.
real pool. Granted, it was while everybody, the music was off, and it was while everybody was at the club on Friday night.
Yeah, but that only meant there were 100 people instead of 600
rather
people.
than 7,000 people crammed in.
No, seriously. When everybody was at the club, that just meant that there were only 100 people at the pool.
Yeah.
It was a very nice time to be in the pool.
It was a really great time to do it. I wore my Patrick Allen Wood bathing suit.
Michael looked very good in his. Part of me was tempted to because we were texting to meet, we we're trying to meet at the pool, and I wanted to get Michael's arrival at the pool and going into the pool as a Patreon video. Maybe
I'm glad you didn't do that.
I think that would have brought the fears you just described to life.
Yeah. That wouldn't have been great. In fact, that did happen to me. Later in the evening, I got out of the pool temporarily, and there was I don't know exactly what was going on, but as soon as I started walking toward the stairs, there was a fellow who was sitting at the top of the stairs out of the pool, who pulled out his phone and started recording something aimed at my direction. I couldn't possibly say if it was me or somebody else, but I felt very unconscious or very self-conscious about that moment.
I actually had a very uncomfortable moment in the pool that evening where we were all at the pool. And so Dan and I came to the pool, and then you guys came to the pool, and I was in the pool before Dan, and I just feel some arms come around me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Dan, and I turn around excited, and it's some stranger.
Not even somebody you had met before?
No.
Oh my God.
And
See that? Yep. That's
Well, but I mean, at clubs, at pools, things get a little handsy.
yeah, and that's. But I don't.
I
want
almost
that.
think it would have been different if it was like
Someone you knew?
someone I knew, or even, I mean, it would have been completely different if it was someone I knew, because it would not be, you know, me expecting my husband and seeing some stranger.
Yeah.
Or if it was like, I don't know, when it was like there were 7,000 people in the pool where it's just like bodies. Like I think it was the empty, you know, we're in an empty-ish pool and then there's just something like hands.
Grabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we also talk about the riptide?
Oh, yeah.
In the pool? That was a very novel experience. You didn't see this?
Yeah, for chasers, this is the thing. And it's
Not just for chasers. I have a story for you.
No, that's true. That's true. I'm just saying that chasers find it, you know,
If you
hot.
are standing in an area of the pool where a lot of people are moving through, like there's sort of a choke point or like there's a pass, you know, and like if you're on either side of the pass by the walls of the pool, anybody going through the center to get from one larger area to the other, particularly the chubs or super chubs, as they move through, they create a wake. And this wake is like a riptide. And it is, when I heard about it, our chaser friend
Just
Kevin,
picturing you getting swept out to the middle of the pool.
that's
exactly what happened.
Michael.
That is literally, that is not an exaggeration. And our chaser friend Kevin told me about it, and I kind of laughed at him, like, oh, haha, because he's kind of like short and small. And it's like, okay, well, you know, whatever. And then later that evening, when we were in the pool, I was there with my partner Michael, who is super chub size, and he got fully swept away and had to grab onto somebody.
Well, the more buoyant you are, the more effect it has.
Yeah. And then it happened to me later, and I had to grab on. Now, granted, if anybody saw me in the pool that night, I don't do this often, but I did take an edible, and I asked them for the weakest one they have.
Oh, boy.
And it may have been the weakest one, but I was very, very high. So I couldn't tell whether or not I was standing up straight anyway. And so like when I started getting swept away, I was like, oh wait, is this really happening? And then I looked at the horizon, and the horizon was sideways. And I was like, no, like grabbed onto Michael. And yeah, it was novel. I could see that being fun and interesting, but I was actually talking to someone at the time. I was like, no, wait, I got to get back to my conversation.
Michael, you got to go with the flow, man.
Yeah, literally the flow. Have you ever swept anyone away, Trevor?
Oh yeah. I've been swept away. It's,
How do you think we got married?
you learn to swim those
waters.
Choppy waters.
those choppy waters, the dangerous sea. I just had that Saturday before everyone came back and the music started. That was just a lovely evening in the pool. I reconnected with some people, made some new friends, saw some people making out, which like, it was like, I feel like it was the appropriate amount of people.
Yeah.
Sunday night, I like went by the pool and it was just like wall to wall bodies.
No, there were times you could walk across the pool. There were so many bodies in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
on top of them.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say the highlight was doing the live episode. Like we haven't really had a chance to talk to anyone on the podcast, like in review of that.
I mean,
moment.
this was the first
That was
chance most of us
phenomenal.
have talked to fans in person,
or even just vocally.
on Moss.
Like that wasn't like a chat or an email.
Yeah.
That was just the most memorable moment maybe of this year. And that's coming off of having just done Disney Pride in concert with the Boston Gay Men, literally coming right off of that the previous weekend. And doing the live episode
Boston
was
Gay Men's Chorus.
exactly.
So while you guys were at the pool, I went to the club, right?
Oh,
And that club was spectacular.
Yeah.
It was at the Palms Casino, but I don't know what the name of the club itself was. But it was surrounded by these enormous LED screens. They had this older, chubby DJ who was amazing. And they had videoed him doing sort of like dorky dances that they would then project up on the LED screens in all directions. So it's like he's doing these sort of grandpa dances with you
that's
during
sweet.
the club. It was sort of a more intense version of the pool. Right?
Well, because it's really a club.
Yeah, it's really a club, and there are people that are sweaty rubbing up against each other on the floor, and you're barely able to move. But the reason why I bring this up is, one, the experience it's the most fun I've ever had at a club, right? It's the first time I went to a club and felt like not only was I welcome, but like me being there was a good thing for other people.
Well, because it was made for you.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's the
that's very
first
clear.
time I've ever felt that.
Yeah.
But the reason why I bring it up is because, again, talking about fan interactions, I told Dan about this, but I don't think I got to tell either of the two of you about this. As I was leaving the club, a fan grabbed my arm, right? And sort of hauled me down to him and hauled him up to me. It was sort of a halfway. Both of us were a little bit drunk, and I couldn't hear entirely what he was saying over the podcast, over the music. But he pulls me in close and he goes, "I love you guys so much." Like, oh, I went to the podcast and I had to leave early, but I wanted to hug all of you, and I didn't get you. Can I hug you? And he hugs me. And then he said something in my ear while he was hugging me, and I wasn't sure if it was, "I think you saved my life," or "I think you changed my life." It was something like that. And then he says, "Can I kiss you, please?" And I'm like, you can't say no to that. And I can't say how touched I was by that sort of visceral interaction. But being awkward me, all I could think was like, I don't know how to say thank you right now. I'm just going to offer you the drink ticket I didn't use. Because the only thing I could think of, just say thank you. I didn't know what to do.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a surprisingly intense level of interactions with some of the fans. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And if the listener who said that to me in the club is listening today, thank you very much for that. That is a treasured memory for me.
Oh my God, I didn't talk about this at the live show, even though. So those of you who were at the live show or watched the Patreon exclusive live stream, I had a little rubber toy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was the best toy.
Which was a gift from a listener.
Oh yeah.
And it was a little sumo centaur. I wish I brought him over to the couch so I could squeeze him into the mic, because he makes these little, it's like a little squeaky
Yeah, and this listener,
sumo centaur.
he also brought us cookies from
I got
where
a couple
he's from.
T-shirts that I have to. I like. They're. Yeah.
We were just so grateful, so touched.
I can't, it's. I would say on a very human level, it's a very strange experience to kind of walk into a room and have that instantaneous level of connection with people.
Oh, you get used to it, Mike.
But I didn't mind. I didn't mind. It was because it was also very cool because we were already in a space at an event in a place that was sort of secretly for us in the community, that it felt like that was the appropriate place for it. I think if I had come across that degree of interaction randomly out in the wild, I might have been a little more kind of like thrown. Again, not in a bad way, but just like surprised. Like, this is not how to put this? I don't see myself as somebody that people will recognize. And so walking into that kind of experience was very startling. But once you kind of go through that, I think, very human reaction, having those conversations with people who have listened to our voices for 2.5 years was amazing and really affirming and energizing. Like, I feel so energized to like keep doing the show. I think we were maybe approaching a degree of like wanting to get to the live episode because that's kind of what we were going toward. And so like doing the live episode was so energizing, and not because we got to do an episode in front of people, but because we got to meet people and talk to them. And if you haven't heard the live episode yet, a lot of it, maybe a third of it, is talking with people and hearing their stories.
Yeah. I mean, something that I'm sure the average listener doesn't consider is like, we do this, especially during COVID, we do this podcast very much in a vacuum, right? We send this out into the world, and the way we find out if it's making any effect on anyone's lives, or from the emails we get from listeners, the occasional reviews we get on things, that's the main form of interaction that I see with the podcast. So,
and it's all in text form.
Yeah.
Even if you write something very personal, which we will take that way, it still has that degree of distance of this came from somewhere else.
Like walking around BiggerVegas, and I was recognized multiple times by my voice. Right?
That did happen to me. It only happened once, but it was such a surreal, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. And the listener where that happened, I was like, I felt bad because I think I came across so surprised by the way the interaction started, which was, I know your voice. And I was like, you do? Okay. But it was a very cool, I feel bad in the moment because I think I had a weird reaction of like, how is this happening? This is strange.
Well, for me, it happened a lot. I was really surprised. Like 3 times it happened at the water park.
I think you have maybe a more identifiable, you probably talked to a lot more strangers than I did too. Like I didn't, I basically stayed in my own group.
At least one of the people at the water park though turns to like, I recognize your voice. And I'm like, I don't think I said anything for the past 5 minutes. I don't know how.
I had so many people come up to me and be like, where's Dawn? I haven't seen Dawn yet.
Yeah. It was very, very cool. I think maybe my favorite non-podcast related sort of effect from going to BiggerVegas was I feel such a degree of comfortability in my life with Michael, like just as an after effect of being around so many people like us.
That's the biggest thing about these events.
Yeah.
Is just
It's so affirming.
Yeah, it's so affirming, and it just shows you like the world you live in your head of being a chubby chaser or a chub, and what paradise that could be. It's like, oh my God, this could exist because you see it manifest, and it's just, as you said, it's so affirming. And the thing is, it's not just the event. You know, you can actually go out and start to create that as you talk to more chasers, if you're a chaser, if you talk to more chubs, if you're a chub.
I was so surprised and delighted by the quantity and of chasers, both at the live episode and that we like got to talk to before and after. Like
It was a big proportion of our live audience.
Yeah. I think I've said since the beginning, the reason why I decided to actually be on the podcast and not just produce it was that I hoped that I would be able to connect with /help/bond with a chaser out there, thinking that would largely not be our audience. But yeah, like it was maybe 50-50.
Well, because I think we might be the only, I think that might be accurate. We might be the only media source that talks about chub chaser relationships, that we acknowledge there's such a thing as a chubby chaser, and it's not a horrible bastardized thing.
That has chasers on the show.
Well, yes, and it's not just talking about them as like, I had this one
they're not just
chaser.
having a guest chaser.
I think there's a number of podcasts out there, but if I could be wrong, but I think they are largely all chubs that do the podcast.
They're chubs and they're mostly women.
Yeah. And there's a few other like podcasts similar to ours, but I think again, they're all chub voices.
Yeah. And one of the things that I knew from doing the MTV episode, you know, long ago now, chasers either are or feel like they're under a rock and they need to like peek out, and then they have to go back under that rock because if anybody found out, or if they, you know, and that's what's, again, so great about BiggerVegas or just creating your own community is no, it doesn't have to be like that, because honestly, that mentality of hiding under a rock, it is toxic. It leaks out in your relationships. It leaks out in your relationship with yourself. It is so important to be part of something like that.
I will say, so looking back at Vegas, I've said this a couple of times to different people, like, so we all got COVID afterwards. And I think we all had a very realistic point of view on that, which is like, you go to an event like this, you're probably going to get it.
Yeah.
And, you know, having the privilege of being vaccinated and boosted, like,
Well, and can I just say, in the old days before COVID, it was common for people to come back from events sick. It was called kennel cough.
yeah. Well, but, and let's just say the difference between COVID and kennel cough, I think, is substantial. Like,
It is.
this has been a 2-week-long sickness.
But the spread and the fact that it was a nexus for this.
The idea that you would come back from an event and, you know, probably will be ill is not a new thing for veterans like
Sure.
me.
But again, COVID, 2 weeks of sick. Like, and so what the point I was building to was that I had a very good time at the event. I did it in a way that I kind of needed to, which was very piecemeal and, you know, have a bunch of social interaction and then retreat to the room, take a nap usually in the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then go back out. And I think that really worked for me. I will say, if I knew going in that I was going to get COVID afterwards, and that for some reason we were not able to do the live episode, or that the podcast was somehow not a part of the event, I don't know that I would do it again, only to point out how important the live episode was to me. Like, that was such a phenomenal, seminal moment because of meeting people who listen to our show and listen to our voices. And I guess I'm trying to express that a lot of people in the room had the sentiment of, I feel like we're friends, even though we'd never met before. And I want to say, having done the live episode, we are friends. Yeah. We love you. Even if you weren't able to make it to the live episode, we have a sense of the representation of people who listen to us, who have expressed basically identical experiences of, I look forward to this every week. And I think we've had a few discussions over the past couple of years about, do we make this easier for ourselves and do it every other week? And I've been a pretty strong advocate for every week, specifically because, so many people have said this is the one thing I really, really look forward to. This is kind of a bright point in the middle of a tough work week, especially with COVID.
People creating community. That's what's important.
Yeah. And that if I sounded maybe a little ungrateful earlier about kind of the weirdness of meeting people who seem to know me, it's only because that was just an initial shock of a social interaction that I wasn't used to. But after that, like the experience of talking to people and actually getting to know people was phenomenal, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I found out afterwards that there were a fair number of people that were actually like intimidated to come up and say hello to us.
Yeah.
Which,
well, because
please don't be.
Well, because for fans, they get this, Reichel.
I get that.
Well, because they know that you feel like a friend to them, but they know that you don't know them. And so the protocol for that is very weird. And I remember going through this when the MTV episode came out, and then when the Tyra episode came out. For me, I would be like on the streets of New York. And I remember this one interaction where this guy he's on the phone. He's having this really intense conversation. And he's like, okay. Can you hold on just a second? Can you hold on I get that. Yeah, I get that. Can you hold on just a second? And he turns to me and says, were you on that show? And I go, me? He goes, yeah. Were you on that show? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. Okay, thanks. Okay, so what I was saying was, and he goes right back into the conversation. But that's all he wanted to know.
Yeah, was it you? I will say I totally get the idea of like having that hesitance, because so I'm going to out you, Don, for a little second, because after we did the live episode, so I woke up in the morning, I had a light breakfast, and then I went straight into like setting up the show basically, and working with our technician that we had hired to set up all the audio gear, setting up the lighting, and basically getting the room ready. And then we did the episode. We had a lot of interaction. It was, it was a lot of being very on. And then as we were clearing out for the next event after us, I think you remember what I'm getting to. The next event was the speed dating that was in the same room after us. And Don was like, I think you maybe should stick around for that. I think you'll love it. Don't think about it like speed dating. It's very much like speed meeting people. I was like, what aspect of speed meeting people do you think I would enjoy?
No, I get it, Don, because I was tempted to stay too.
The two, and I get it. Like the two extroverts would love that. I was just like, I was
more
so tired by that point. I was like, I just want to take a nap now.
No,
I want to be not around people.
I'm with Michael on that, where that just sounds like the worst thing. Like, especially after, I don't know, performing and then meeting people and
like, it's great, but then you need to not for a while.
Yeah. But the point that I wanted to make was, at least for me, don't be afraid to come up and say hello if you happen to spot me in public. I enjoyed every one of those interactions. So.
Yeah. I certainly enjoyed all the interactions. I just hit a point where I was like, any social interaction, whether with my own friends or with strangers or with podcast fans who I don't consider to be strangers. I like Saturday, like Friday was an unbelievably social day. I don't think I had a single moment alone the whole day. And so Saturday I crashed hard. I think I slept for like 6 hours in the afternoon, and then I went to bed early that night. Like we barely did anything. I just needed that recovery day. And then I was okay. And then I came back Sunday.
This is so alien to me as an extrovert.
No, I crashed
Downtime
hard.
to me is having an intimate conversation with one person.
I can do that. I can do that. The one person thing, the one-on-one thing is it's like a balance of intensity of topic. So if it's a very deep or emotional topic, that can be draining. But if it's just with one person, that can be sustained over time. But if it's an intensity of topic with many people or just many, many, many people, that's exponentially more draining. And at the end of that Friday, I was just like, I was so done.
Yeah.
See, the one-on-one thing, I don't remember what day it was, but I know I told you about it, where I had a row of like, it was 10 to 12 one-on-one conversations with chasers. It's like most of them were just like people I'd met at events before, but just like going from one place and stopping, 10 to 20 minute conversation, keep going, another conversation, keep going, another like and it was just exhausting. And I was like, I was on my way to get water. and it like 2 hours later, I was able to get my water.
That's kind of the story of your life, sweetie. I mean, every event you talk about how like, I'm just trying to get across the room.
This is something that Dan knows about, but I don't think I told you.
Me.
So so I sent my mom pictures of like the stage and the stage when it was set up,
I love this.
and then the view of the audience or like partial audience. And I was talking to her after the event, and she said, so the picture of the audience, were you in the audience? And I was like really confused. And I was like, I don't think so, because I was taking the picture of the audience. So I don't. And I went to the picture. I said, well, I thought I saw you in the picture. And I went, and in the front row, there was Michael.
Oh, my Michael.
Yes. Yeah. And she's like, and I was with Annie, and Annie said she knew it wasn't you because she said Trevor would never wear a Star Wars shirt.
Yeah, he was wearing his Baby Yoda. I thought it kind of looked like you. And I mean, I know I haven't seen you in a few years, but I don't know. I thought it kind of looked like you. It was from the side, so I couldn't really tell. And I think the key differentiating factor is that Trevor has dyed hair usually, like either blonde or a color, and Michael has very dark brown hair. So that's to Trevor's mom. If you hear this,
well, because to Trevor's mom, Trevor has dark brown hair.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Any wrap up thoughts for the BiggerVegas? I mean, I feel like we've been talking about this for like 3 months now.
I think the success is that Michael, you were thinking about like, well, what other events are there?
I will say, I'm not going to Florida.
Yeah,
I fully
I'm
support
not going to Florida or Texas.
I fully support the fact that there are events there for people who can't make it all the way over to Vegas.
Well, and the majority of events, I think all the remaining events on the calendar are in Texas or Florida.
Texas or Florida, I know, and that's why I say that. And I'm sorry.
That's why I'm looking at you, Europe. Do something awesome.
I don't. So event makers out there, I know that you know we have to kind of bounce every other year or so we don't overlap and step on toes. But I would love to do another event. I'm not going to Florida. I'm not going to Texas. I'm sorry. I won't do it. So hopefully there's something else and a different option out there.
Yep.
So I do have a tip. I have 2 tips actually. You win big in Vegas. You get 2 tips.
Yeah. You rolled all dollar signs.
So the first one, Dan and I were able to get an accessible room.
Yes.
In Vegas. Very lovely. But the shower head for the wand really wasn't doing it for me.
It was one of those big daisy head handheld showers, it's great. That's certainly better than a nozzle, high on the wall.
You can pick it up and
you can take it into all your nooks and crannies, but it's a big daisy, like a sunflower head.
And it had a flow restrictor in it. So the water pressure wasn't very high.
Sure. But even then, like you can't fit that, imagine trying to put a sunflower up your ass. That's really not going to happen, people.
What are you guys doing with your shower handles?
I like to get
that's a Patreon video.
You have to talk about kink shaming, Michael.
So I was able to order from Amazon this little shower head wand thing, which is actually it's like a knockoff version of what we have here at home.
And it's more cylindrical and thin.
It's kind of like not even a microphone.
It looks like a flashlight. It looks like about the size of a flashlight.
Without the head, right?
Yeah.
It's just the cylinder, like the body of a flashlight, and it has all these little nice holes for the water to come out. But it is really great for because with the daisy header, sometimes you really, and again, this is sort of this is very chaser material, but like when you have to lift a huge fold of fat to get under there, that can be rather cumbersome and you can't get it in as deep as you want. But with this, you can really slide it up into the actual fold and get to the bottom of it. And the Chub can actually do this himself.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
No, it was just great because it was like, it took, the experience from like I don't know. It was like a 7 to a 10.
And it's cheap too. It was like, what you said, it was like $10-15.
Yeah, something like that.
And so they got us one.
Yes.
As a little bonus gift. And that, totally agree. And it's small enough that you can take with you. So like totally valuable thing. And again, super light, easy to travel with, like thin, small.
Oh, absolutely. It's no more than a pill case.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I really thought was ingenious.
Yes. So this actually came from a listener who, sent this in. So it was a travel bidet.
Oh, what a day for a travel
Which-
day.
Yeah.
So how to describe this in
In
our audio medium? It looked kind of like a
It was beautifully designed. So imagine an electric toothbrush that has a cylindrical cover that goes all over it.
Okay.
You take off the cover, you use the cover as the reservoir and screw it onto the bottom. So now you have basically an electric toothbrush that's
that's
twice
clever.
as long. And then there is this arm that is molded to the body of the device, and that flips up. And that is where the water comes out.
That's clever.
I would say it was better than not having a bidet.
It was a little weak, but absolutely better than nothing.
I think
The savages who still use toilet paper only.
They don't know about the shells. Does anybody remember that reference from Demolition Man?
Oh yeah,
He doesn't
the
know how to-
shells.
he doesn't know how to use the
shells.
I think the amount of pressure would have been fine if I had unlimited water.
Okay.
But the fact, I found it's okay, I'm using the full reservoir every time.
I mean, but again,
It's better than nothing.
I have a bonus. I have a third tip.
Third tip.
And I say this mostly because it's
3 tips.
specifically relevant to BiggerVegas. One of our listeners got us an assortment of these scarves that have these crystals in them. That
Yes, I have one for you, Don.
Yeah, you get them wet, and then they are super cooling. And so in the Vegas heat, where it was routinely 105, 110 degrees outside, even at nighttime, 90 to 95 degrees, very cooling, and it also covers you so that you're not going to get burned.
That would have been nice because the hat was a little uncomfortable for me to wear, and this was my first time being out in that much sun with a shaved head.
Yeah, we kind of dropped the ball on distributing those because the day that we got it was my crash non-social day, and then the day after that. Anyway, so it was a very cool device if you live anywhere or if you're going anywhere that has a lot of heat and sun. Yeah, very effective, and it keeps you cool.
Is it like a scarf you wear over your head?
Yeah, you can. We'll wrap it around your neck, I would say, and keep the back of your neck cool. And yeah. Anyway, thank you to that particular listener, one of the OG.
Seriously, thank you for all these lovely gifts that we got.
Yeah,
Yes, I love
between
gifts.
the toy.
I like gifts.
All right, what we got today, Don?
Well, seeing as how we went to Bigger Vegas, when I spent time in Vegas, I realized that Bigger Vegas was not the only big thing in Vegas.
Really?
There are a lot of really big things in Vegas. In fact,
is
some of
true.
them are the biggest things in the world.
Like what,
Try
Don?
traversing the fucking casino that we went through.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God, that's a story for another time.
So in this game, I'm going to be giving you hints as to what the answer is. All right.
I love
So
hints.
after each hint, you have to let me finish the hint I'm giving, then buzz in.
We don't have dart guns. There's a problem.
Well, buzzers
with
are
this.
better. Buzzers are
No, dart guns are better.
All right. The Bellagio is world famous for its choreographed dancing water fountains in front of the hotel, but they may not be the Bellagio's most noteworthy. What type of fountain does the Bellagio hold a world record for? 1, don't mix with water. 2,
Buzz,
Michael.
like a super large chocolate fondue.
That is correct. They are famous for the world's largest chocolate fountain,
I got one.
which I really regret not seeing now. It's part of Jean-Philippe Patisserie. It has nearly 2 tons of white milk and dark chocolate in an enclosure that has 25 handcrafted artistic glass vessels. The chocolate rises 27 feet from the lowest
Jesus.
level pump. And 6 ceiling spouts disperse chocolate 14 feet above the floor.
Oh my God. What do they do about the splash?
I don't know, but I would totally go full Augustus Gloop in this thing.
Oh yeah.
I just,
Totally. Just dive.
my ass in
Face
there.
first.
I'm going to save some for later, Liebchen.
All right. The Golden Nugget, one of the grand old casinos of the Strip, is famously proud of its most treasured possession. What largest thing in the world is the Golden Nugget famous for? 1, not an animal or a mineral, or
Hold
excuse
on.
me.
I want to know what Trevor was thinking.
Probably what I'm thinking.
These are always worth
first-
hearing.
No, the first thing that popped into my head was nipples.
Okay, not what I was thinking.
All right. First hint, not an animal or vegetable.
Buzz.
Trevor?
The world's largest gold nugget.
That is correct.
I was thinking that, but then I remember there was a Futurama episode that said that Lucy Liu owned the world's largest gold nugget. And I don't know if they were joking about that or if that was real.
I don't know. There apparently have been 2 larger golden nuggets found in the world, but both of them were melted down. So this is the largest naturally
Maybe that's what she
occurring
did.
golden nugget. The Cosmopolitan Hotel is a magnificent site. Known for its breathtaking lights and its crystal-studded lobby, it's also notable for the world's largest what? 1. If you've got one at all, it'll probably be in the dining room. 2. Sing.
Buzz.
Sing, my angel of music. Dan.
Harp?
No.
I was going to say candelabra, but then you said music and I changed it.
Buzz.
Trevor.
Chandelier.
That is correct.
Ah.
That is Sing, My Angel of Music from Phantom of the Opera, famous for dropping a chandelier on its audience.
Yeah.
Designed to be the main attraction at the Cosmopolitan Hotel, the chandelier is both beautiful and record-breaking. It consists of more than 2 million crystal beads.
Jesus.
Each bead is handmade in octagon shape to resist showing signs of wear in the long term. And the chandelier is 65 feet tall and surrounds a 10,000 square foot area, inside of which there are 3 bars and a partially see-through staircase.
Holy crap.
I do remember this because it descends many stories. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, boys. To wrap things up, we've got a final.
Wait, it's a 3-way tie.
It's
So
a
this is
multiple
tiebreaker.
choice one. This one's a multiple
I didn't
choice.
get one.
Didn't you just get the chandelier?
No, that was
No, I
Trevor.
did.
Oh, Trevor did. Damn it. Trevor's ahead.
All right. Which of the following was not built in Las Vegas?
Okay.
1. The world's largest fire-breathing praying mantis. 2. The world's largest moonwalking Michael Jackson robot.
Oh my God.
3. The world's largest mug of root beer. Or 4. The world's largest functioning fire hydrant.
Buzz.
Buzz. Well, I guess we're just all guessing.
Yeah, everyone gets a guess on this.
I'm guessing the root beer.
I'm guessing the root beer too.
We got 2 root beers.
I'm guessing Michael Jackson because they didn't actually build that. That was something they were going to build. And it was going to wander the desert so people would like see it on the way to Vegas.
What?
And that is the correct answer.
Oh my God.
The world's largest fire hydrant and fire-breathing praying mantis are actually in the same place. You can go and see both at the same
Oh,
time.
that's convenient.
Well, yeah.
The world's largest mug of root beer was originally the world's largest pint mug of beer, but it has been rebranded. And the world's largest moonwalking Michael Jackson robot was supposed to coincide with a residency that Michael Jackson was going to do in Vegas. And it was literally going to be a gigantic robot that just aimlessly wandered the desert, moonwalking and
Wasn't it also
advertising
going to
the
like
show.
shoot fire out of its eyes or something?
I think there were lasers involved, yes. But
Just like the real Michael Jackson.
We lost so much when he died. That would be terrifying. Just imagine
God.
like you don't know about this and
my
you're just you're going cross country and you just see a giant robot Michael Jackson
I mean,
moonwalking through the
calling
desert.
back to Bender from the beginning of the episode, kill all humans.
if anybody ever saw The Wiz, like
sure.
Richard Pryor's fire-breathing metallic head.
Oh, that's right.
Like I'm just picturing Michael Jackson's metallic head breathing fire as it rampages through the Vegas desert.
My Catholic school did an all-white production of The Wiz.
oh my God.
Oh my Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well-
He's on down the road to Christ.
No.
It was like they wanted to do the. It was like they wanted to do the Wizard of Oz, but they did the Wiz, and everyone was white.
Why didn't they just do the Wizard of Oz? Everyone's white.
I don't know because it was. I was in first grade. It was the 8th grade play, so this was probably like 1995 or something. It
Oh,
was
so it was okay back then.
yeah.
Well, listener, if you can tell us why Trevor's elementary school Catholic school did the Wiz all white, let us know at.
Oh boy! Come on. I mean, we know it's because it's white nonsense. Tell us about it. We're at Big Fat Gay Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. 5 stars there. 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Leave us a review.
Yeah.
Support us on Patreon. Big Fat Gay Pod. Patreon everywhere.
We use it to pay our editor.
See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Well, maybe you're enjoying a cough drop on your drive home from BiggerVegas.
I know I was.
Yeah.
and you see something in the distance. It's moonwalking its way towards you.
Oh God!
It's robot Michael Jackson, and he's he found out that you know me, and that you're associated to the all-white production of The Wiz.
Oh no!
So
watch out! So much coughing.
I think you should leave these coughs in at the
No.
over the music.